So International Soviet liked this video called "Is Hitler a Socialist?" Or is Hitler was Hitler a socialist? I don't know. I didn't watch the video, but I figured I'd make my own version because no, Hitler was not a socialist. Hitler was an opportunist. Hitler may have touted socialist policies on paper, but that by no means necessarily means that he believed in socialism or that he actually implemented socialist policies. People can say whatever the fuck they want to say, but what you do is a completely different story. Hitler touted mostly nationalist policies. Everything has to be for the glory of Germany. You know, Germany needs help. Germany needs a right government to preserve itself. Germany is under attack by the Jews. Germany, Germany, Germany. And this is how he got support, because he was appealing to Germans. So, naturally, Germans were like, yeah, I could use some help. Yeah, maybe the Jews are behind the reason why my life sucks. You know, they would agree with anything as long as it helped them. Because there was petty bourgeoisie that owned small businesses that were struggling, the working class was struggling, everybody in Germany was suffering after World War I. And what caused World War I? A bourgeoisie war. The idea of the rich. You know, the rich started World War I, and Germany suffered for it, and thus if you want to blame anyone on the Nazis, you blame the capitalists. Because if the capitalists had not gone into Germany in World War I, you wouldn't have Nazis in World War II. So, that's Hitler's main forte, is that he was a nationalist. Or at least he claimed to be one, so that people would support him. And he was also big on pseudoscience, eugenics, you know, trying to create a superclass. And, you know, people try to act like Hitler was the epitome of evil, and that there is no way anyone would ever let that happen again. But I got bad news for you. It could happen again very easily. In fact, it's happened in much worse ways now. In many Western societies, Hitler would blush at some of the crap that they've done, especially in America. We have far less civil liberties than in Nazi Germany. And I don't mean to say that our government is so authoritarian that we can't leave our house, but culturally, we do not respect civil rights in America. Culturally, we are always trying to undermine all of our freedoms. And if you don't see that, you're just blindsided. You are just living under a rock. And it doesn't take the government to take away your rights. All it takes is the ambivalence or the evils of people. If people do not want rights, you're not going to have rights. So you have to appreciate human rights in order to maintain them. It has nothing to do with government. Government is merely an extension of the people. Government is represented by the people, it's voted by the people. At least in theory, I understand that, you know, lobbying and corruption, and they all make excuses for each other, and, you know, they're a tightly knit club. I understand that. But still, at the end of the day, the government more or less is just a reflection of society. So whatever problems you have with the government, you should not be targeting government specifically, but rather the people around you. Because guess what? Someone had to vote for these guys. Someone had to support them. Someone had to think what they said was a good idea. That's why Hitler got into power to begin with. Rather than blaming Hitler, you should be blaming the Germans that allowed Hitler to create this cultural monopoly where the Nazi Party basically dominated the entire political spectrum. You should be blaming German people for allowing eugenics and allowing mass genocide. You should be blaming Germans for allowing this Nazi mentality to take control of Germany and to affect their entire minds, their entire philosophical outlet, their outlook on life. But you're not going to. You don't want to believe that people have that kind of power. People may not have direct power, but they do have abstract power. They are a superorganism. And as such, they dictate the direction that those with direct power take. because those with direct power can only go as far as the superorganism lets them. To go in contradiction to the superorganism is not going to make you a dictator. I'm sorry, there is just no fucking way that you are going to be able to rise to political power and control a country if you are in conflict with the mob. It's just that simple, you know? Revolutionaries are always in conflict with the superorganism. That's why they go to jail, that's why they get killed, that's why history never remembers them well. That's why they are always shamed, that's why they're always, humiliated, that's why they're degraded, because they go against the evils of the superorganism. And everything that Hitler was an extension of the German people. Now, did that change over time? Yes, but not because Hitler was a bad guy, but because they lost the war. And then, they felt ashamed afterward because they had to. Because everybody else around them was making them feel ashamed of it. But nobody felt bad about fascism in and of itself, because if they did, we wouldn't live in the world we do. That's my interpretation of, was Hitler a socialist? No, Hitler was not a socialist, but then again, Hitler would have never become Hitler had he been a socialist. He couldn't afford to be a socialist. Being a socialist requires having some kind of tact. It requires having some kind of purpose, some kind of righteousness about you. You don't become a socialist in hopes that you'll become a dictator, despite what all the libertarians say, despite what Glenn Beck says. Socialism does not lead to totalitarian regimes. If it did, we would all be much better off. Because what do socialists want? They want more appreciation for workers. They want better conditions for said workers. How is it dictatorial if people are getting access to health care and to food and to housing? That doesn't make any sense. Everyone's so worried about losing their rights and saying, oh, we're distracted by TV and by music and shit. People don't even get that. No one's providing that shit for us. No one's giving us our Pizza Hut and our Jersey Shore and shit. We gotta buy that. We gotta work our fucking asses off for that. It's just people are so goddamn ignorant and so scared to think for themselves and to go against the superorganism that they don't want to even conceive the idea of change or doing something about it. But they don't get anything out of it. We're not given these distractions. We run toward them. We use our own feet to run toward a distraction that we gotta fucking pay for. That's the reality of it. And you know what? That's worse than Nazi Germany. So, that's all I have to say for now.